All right, hello everyone. Alicia Mayo of Clari-T Media. I'm the CEO and founder of the multimedia nonprofit Clari-T Media. I spell Clari-T Media C-L-A-R-I dash capital T, because Clary in Latin defines a bright, famous girl, and the capital T reflects my technical side. I'm a tech geek. I've worked behind the scenes in television and radio broadcasting for KDIA Radio, KPOO. Those are local radio stations and black-owned radio stations, I'm proud to say. I've also worked for Westwood One, Metro Traffic Control, Total Traffic and Weather Network, iHeartMedia, KPIX Channel 5, Cron 4 Television, KCBS as a news editor and producer and traffic reporter. And I've produced my own content with Clari-T Media because I found that there was no room to tell the kinds of stories that I wanted to tell about Black people in San Francisco who are very extraordinary people, interesting people, and they've been through a lot, as well as myself. I'm a native of San Francisco, born and raised in San Francisco, born in 1965 in Mount Zion Hospital. My family arrived in San Francisco in the 50s, early 50s, around that time. My uncle Nicholas Alexander helped build the Bay Bridge. My grandfather Harrison Williams helped lay the concrete as a concrete mason inside of the Transbay tube that travels from San Francisco to Oakland underwater. Yeah, yes. So I have very deep family roots in San Francisco, and I'm a proud San Franciscan and a proud San Francisco daughter. Yes, I consider myself in the fabric of San Francisco, whether you like it or not. Sorry. I'm sorry. So I grew up in several neighborhoods in San Francisco. I lived in the Outer Mission. I lived in Bayview Hunters Point. I lived in Potrero Hill. I lived in the Lakeview or Ingleside district. I lived in Fillmore. We lived in Alice Griffith projects next to Candlestick Park, and a bunch of other parts of the city, you know, that don't even look the same, that would hate for me to try and lay claim to it, okay? But I grew up in San Francisco. I was born and raised in San Francisco, whether you like it or not. Sorry. I've worked in San Francisco in almost every area of work. I mean, I started working at 12 years old, delivering the San Francisco Chronicle newspaper. Okay? So if I started work at 12 and I continued to work every year after that, because that's what my Southern grandparents from Jackson, Mississippi taught me, can you imagine all of the jobs I've held? I was undercover security for Tower Records on Bay and Columbus, catching tourists who were stealing classical music sets. Imagine that. I worked for the Emporium Capitol on Market Street for 8 years in retail sales, selling everything from lamps up on the 6th floor to Market on Market, you know, and making coffee for people. I sold men's shoes, women's clothing, fur coats, carpets, mattresses. Retail was my number one favorite industry to work in, especially in San Francisco. And unfortunately, you know, it's just not the same. It's not the same energy, not the same consumption model, right? Things have changed so much in our world, but in San Francisco in particular. And some things have not changed for the better. Okay, so let me go back to introducing myself. But some things have changed for the better. Let me just add that, you know, everything's not so negative, right? And I really want to keep that message as my foundation. Everything is not so bad, okay? And it's really our attitudes and the way we think and the way we were raised, to really understand what is happening around us and how we are affecting the environment, okay? We have to be responsible with our words and our actions. That is very, very important. I was raised that way, to be mindful of others and to do my part, to work hard, to be honest, to always be open in my communication, explaining myself, and trying to get clarity and understanding myself by asking questions. And there is no dumb question, right? No dumb question. So I created Clari-T Media to answer a lot of questions that weren't being answered, to get information about subjects that I really wanted to understand more. And because I was born and raised in a very multicultural, industrial city, very progressive city, politically active city, I am every bit San Francisco. Let me just say that. So I wanted to make sure that I covered, my background first about who I am in this recording, because don't get it twisted. I am a great person, and I know I am, because I strive to be, and I make sure of that. By giving and doing the kind of work that is meaningful to others, I give of myself. That's who I am. And so I know that I am great. God made me this way, and I will continue to be great. Forgetting whatever people have to say that's negative about me, out of jealousy, out of envy, out of hate, out of lack of knowledge about me. People will say things randomly without fact checking, without any credibility, without any substantial or substantiating proof. People just say things, but they claim to be journalists. They claim to be professionals, like the editor of The Voice of San Francisco, Ms. Susan Reynolds, who wrote an article recently about me, saying some really crazy stuff and comparing me to Stanley Roberts, former KRON 4 television producer of People Behaving Badly. Stanley Roberts, before you had any reaction to what Susan Reynolds wrote about me, all you had to do is pick up the phone and call me. You came to my house for a holiday party, you are more than welcome to pick up the phone and call me and ask me what the facts are. Susan Reynolds, you are also welcome to pick up the telephone and call me. In the conversation that you had with Stanley Roberts about me, you should have asked him for a contact, my email, my telephone number, something, so that you could substantiate your information and be credible and get the facts, okay? But here I'm looking at your website, The Voice of San Francisco, and you say about your mission is to provide sensible content that brings clarity. Not my kind of clarity, obviously. But yeah, you claim to be sensible in your content, bringing clarity and ushering in a new era of safety, housing, and prosperity for San Francisco. So let me just address your very first sentence. If you were providing sensible content, you would fact check, okay? If you were providing sensible content, you would substantiate and prove and make sure that the information that you're sharing is true, okay? You would bring clarity to a situation by exploring it and understanding it and getting my perspective. Since you talked a lot about me, you should have asked me and had me talk about me instead of you talking about me. Talk about what you know Okay? And I'll talk about what I know. I know me better than you know me. So please, Miss Susan Reynolds, give me a call, write me an email. I'm more than happy to answer any and all of your questions because it is important to be honest. It is important to have your facts checked. It is important to be credible and sensible and clear about your information when you are being responsible and held responsible by the public. Okay, if you have the public trust, you should be honest and you should be open about everything with them. And that is what I've always done in my media work, especially as an independent, because I have the opportunity to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Absolutely. I was raised to live by the rule of the land and by the laws governed by the people. That is who I am. Clari-T Media, my multimedia organization, is all about human stories and grassroots solutions to problems. A very simple concept. Human stories and grassroots solutions, because as human beings we have lots of issues, okay? Whether it's politics, religion, safety, housing, prosperity, economics, education, healthcare. But how are we going to find solutions? What are we going to do? What kind of action are we going to take? Those things are important to me, and grassroots organizing is important to me because I want to live in a peaceful society. I want to live in a fair and just society where people have the freedom to live and do and speak and be who they want to be, right? Without disrespecting others, without being disrespected, without infringing and crossing boundaries of others, and without people infringing on my rights and crossing my boundaries, right? Quid pro quo, same time, man. I want the same things you want. I want the same things. Okay, so please understand that. Speaking of wanting the same things, you know, a lot of people want to retire in a beautiful place. I've worked my ass off all of my life. Like I said, I started working at 12 years old, delivering the San Francisco Chronicle newspaper with my grandfather. And I never stopped working. All right? I worked all of my life. All of my life. Black people don't have regular weekends where we can enjoy ourselves with our families because most of us are working the weekends when nobody else wants to work. And in radio, that's all I did was work weekends and overnights. Google me, honey. Check the facts. So now at 59 years old, you better believe I'm going to enjoy my life the way I want to because I've worked for it. I've paid my dues. I have served the people and done everything right in my life, whether you think so or not. I know I've done everything right. And I am absolutely transparent about everything. Now, I moved here to Jamaica so I could retire after working and saving and doing what I should do and making sure that I can afford to live here, not taking money from somewhere else or from someone else to come and live a luxury life. No, I know about that. That has happened to me and my family too many times in San Francisco. The haves and the have-nots. I was a have-not. My family worked hard to get us to the point where we could have everything that we wanted. Right? So when my grandparents came from Jackson, Mississippi, they worked in the kitchen at Mount Zion Hospital in the dietary department. You know, they eventually became independent caterers, catering bat mitzvahs at the Jewish Brotherhood Temple on Brotherhood Way in San Francisco, having their own catering business. catering kosher events as an African American family. My mom worked in that business, my aunts, and my grandparents, neighbors, their friends, they all contributed to working in that catering business with my grandparents so that everybody in that black family community could benefit. That's what my family is all about. That's how I was raised. That's how I live my life today. Serving others and making sure that I give 100%. So with that, now, let me just really quickly say that, I am proud to be from San Francisco, born and raised, like I said, in the city, Hunters Point, Potrero Hill, Ingleside, Lakeview, Western Addition, Fillmore, Outer Mission, Lower Castro, Lower Haight, whatever you want to call it. My first boyfriend was Dana Schneider, white boy, blue eyes, who grew dreadlocks and is now a gay man. Okay. I was his first little girlfriend, and that he took home to his parents, a banker and an executive for Macy's. And when they saw me, they were shocked to see me, and but welcoming and kind to me. And that's all that I know. Those kinds of relationships. So, Ms. Susan Reynolds, check yourself, check your ego at the door before you come knock on my email or pick up the telephone, okay? Please leave that and come with questions to substantiate all the stuff that you said about me in the article, about me retiring in Jamaica on DKI dollars. Impossible. The DKI funding that I received was just over $200,000. The first year of my grant, I applied for the Dreamkeeper Initiative Narrative Shift Cohort because I thought somebody needed to tell the story of the Dreamkeeper Initiative. It was an extraordinary initiative. Somebody had to tell the story. So they offered me $50,000 to do it. That was amazing to me because I was doing independent media work. I was not even a nonprofit. And then it dawned on me, hey, wait a minute. I've worked for KQED. I know what nonprofit media is about. I know what the model is. Why not create that model for myself? So I created a 501c3 for my multimedia organization. See, I'm learning from the best. I'm learning from people like those folks over at KQED. Maybe I'll learn something from Susan. Susan, you can learn something from me. I welcome you. And so I created that model for Clari-T Media, and I found out that that was the perfect model for the San Francisco City and County's Dreamkeeper Initiative because that's all they work with is nonprofit vendors for grants, city grants, okay? So I was there and I got incorporated. I actually drove up to Sacramento and went door to door knocking and asking questions about how to become a nonprofit, what my responsibilities were, how many people I need on my board, if I need a board at all. I did my due diligence. I fact checked. I got the information from a primary source. Okay, I didn't go and ask Stanley Roberts. I got the information firsthand, primary resource, primary source, okay? First person, okay? That's how you fact check, okay? And then you go and check some more with some other sources, and then you compare the information, and then you cite and attribute your sources, okay? That's how you do it, Susan and Stanley. And so I became a nonprofit. I wrote my very first grant for the first time ever and was approved by the Dreamkeeper Initiative for $50,000. I was so excited and so happy. that was the most I had ever made in one grant writing proposal in an RFQ. And thank goodness for the, excuse me, I've just gotten bit by a mosquito. Oh, these mosquitoes in Jamaica. Anyway, writing a grant for the first time was a little bit easier for me with the Dreamkeeper initiative because it was in the RFQ, the request for qualification